Matthew Crawford here, and let's fly smooth. Whoa, and not like that. Now, when we fly helicopters in Microsoft Flight Simulator, we don't want to be having to push the stick all the way forwards the whole time in order to maintain forward momentum. We use trim to reduce that pressure that we need. But then when we want to reduce that trim and we use the reset rotor trim function, it can look like this. I think everyone probably just lost their lunch on that flight. Let's look at a better way. It's called force trim. Mount Beauty Airport, a beautiful location indeed for this flight. We're in Australia's southeast, in its alpine region. The wind today from the northwest, straight down the runway, about 4 knots, nice and gentle. And we're in the Robinson R66 helicopter, included in every edition of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, as is this airport, this handcrafted airport. Okay, let's get inside. Alright, airport elevation 1100 feet. I'll fly a right-hand circuit. Not really following real-world procedures, but I'll fly an approximate right-hand circuit about 500 to 600 feet above ground level. So let's do it. A bit of left pedal in to anticipate the tendency of the nose to move to the right, and a bit of left cyclic in, anticipating the right-hand translational tendency when we lift the collective, which I'm doing now. Here it comes. The collective comes up. Just a little bit of twisting there. It comes up on its left skid. Bit too much stick in, perhaps. But that's alright, we've saved that there, and we're in a stable hover. Alright, with everything in the green then, I can just push a little bit more into the collective to get our torque up to just under 80. Stick forward, and we gain speed into effective translational lift. And we're at 60 knots now, and I'll just let the nose rise slowly. Try and get that yaw string pointing upwards. Okay, so look at the position on the input viewer of my cyclic. It's a long way forward, and I wouldn't want to do my whole flight like this, especially if I've got a stick that is centering and has a strong spring force. So what I can do is hold down the set force trim release switch, which I'm going to do now. Hold it down, move the stick into the center, as you can see on the input viewer, release, and what it has done is applied the amount of stick movement that I made whilst with that switch down into the cyclic trim, so that it's all equalized, and I can now fly much more comfortably with the stick centered. Very handy. So 600 feet above ground level, let's get this turn done to go onto our downwind leg. Not losing height, please. Keep that stick a little bit further back. And the right pedal a little bit further down to bring the aircraft into better trim. I'm still losing height. There we go. Better. There's the airfield. We fly right at that hill. And that's how we will do our circuit. So even if you're going to use the force trim, like I am now a firm adherent of, you can still fine-tune it using that, well, in my case, the hat switch. So I can still bring the nose up a little bit by coming back on the hat switch, or putting it forward again by pushing forward on the hat switch again. So I've still got all of those controls available to me. No problem there at all. So at this point of the circuit, I want to be lowering the collective and raising the nose so that I don't lose too much height yet, but that the speed comes back in. So we're through 60 knots now. Nice and slow, the circuit. So I could adjust the trim with the hat switch, or notice that the stick is now back towards me. I hold down the force trim, push and hold, move the stick back into the center, and the trim is now set to that position. Nice. There's the threshold. Nice gentle 45 knots on. These people in the houses 500 feet below me are probably wondering what's going on here with the slow helicopter driver above them. Let's get this turn done onto base. Still losing a small amount of height there, that's good. Maybe a little bit too much now. So the force trim isn't realistic in the sense that in a real world helicopter that is equipped with a force trim system, the mechanics of it will actually hold the stick in the position that the pilot chose when they held the stick down, and so that they still get a kind of a spring force from the new position of the stick as it is from the point that they release the force trim button. So without a high-end force feedback stick and probably some custom coding to make it all work properly, this approximation of that effect inside Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 is actually, I think, pretty good. Holding the stick back now, I'll just try a little bit more there. Good, there we go. Cancelling that last bit of forward motion, I'll just come over here. So, not exactly the same as a real-world implementation of force trim, but nonetheless really effective for your helicopter flights in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. How good of a job can I do putting this down here? I was a little bit higher up there than I realised, and I've just, yes, there we go. Whoops. Wiggle it into place. There was still a little bit of trim left on there. I can see that on the input viewer now. I can still reset it with the switch, the reset cyclic switch. So the assignments that I've got are looking like this. I've still got all of my hat switch going on to the lateral and longitudinal cyclic trim. So that makes a lot of sense. That's how I was doing my fine inputs there. I've still got the trim reset, the cyclic trim reset, on a convenient switch on my joystick, and I want to put that force trim onto a button that's convenient for me, so anyone that's convenient for you, and there it all is in the controls there. So that's my assignment, and as you can see, I've just got that all updated in my helicopter's general config, which I can apply pretty much to all the helicopters. The force trim works in all the machines that I've tested except two. It doesn't work in the H125, and that could be something to do with this rather confusing situation that Asobo or Microsoft have talked about with regard to that particular edition of the H125 not being equipped with trim. Although the hat switch now works, so you can still do your set longitudinal and lateral cyclic trim and reset it with the switch. Not quite as nice as being able to use the force trim, but that's the situation on the H125. And the other one that it doesn't work on is the Hype performance group H225, the Super Puma. And that's because Hype, being very clever developers indeed, have got their own custom automatic flight control system in there. And so it just doesn't really work all that nicely with that. So bear that in mind and enjoy flying about with your force trim functionality, which is a really welcome addition to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, and I hope you have as smooth flying with it as what I'm aiming for. Cheers, I'll catch you next time.